Robert Pershing Wadlow, also known as the Alton Giant and the Giant of Illinois, was a man who was the tallest person in recorded history. His body was tall, but his life was short. Find out more about him in this video. Robert was born in Alton, Illinois on February 22, 1918 and was the oldest of 5 children. Like most others, he was a perfectly normal and healthy baby at 8.5 pounds. But unlike most babies, he grew exceptionally fast. He was taller than his father by age 8. He grew at such a rapid pace that the elementary school he was studying in had to make a special desk for him, adding wooden blocks to the bottom so he wouldn't have to hunch over in class. They also had to have a special uniform made for him as the traditional sizes wouldn't fit. By the time of his graduation, he was 8 feet 4 inches or 254 centimeters in height. It took 14 yards of 36-inch wide fabric to make his Boy Scout uniform. But startingly, he still wasn't done growing and would go on to ultimately reach a height of 8 feet 11 inches. It wasn't long before people of the town started noticing him and he started becoming very popular. When he and his siblings started a soft drink stand in their front yard, people often came not because they were thirsty, but because they wanted to see Robert. He had the customers pay for a drink before he would stand up. They made more than $100 one summer. He enrolled in Shirtliff College with the intention of studying law, but he dropped out just after 1 semester. Just before his 12th birthday, he had his first checkup at the Barnes Hospital. Doctors eventually diagnosed Robert with hyperplasia of the pituitary gland, a condition that caused rapid and excessive growth due to an abnormally high level of human growth hormones in the body. The possibility of corrective surgery was decided against since he had no physical or mental difficulties and the surgery was risky and could have resulted in permanent injury or death. Though he was relatively healthy in his younger years, he later began to encounter some health issues. Due to his extreme height, he suffered from a lack of feeling in his legs and feet. This often meant that he wouldn't notice issues like blisters or infections unless he was looking for them. Eventually, he would also require leg braces and a cane to get around. He still preferred to walk on his own and never used a wheelchair, even if it would have aided him greatly. He had to walk sideways up steps so his feet could fit on the treads. He didn't cup school books in his hands but held them from the ends like pieces of paper. He ducked under doorways, could reach the top of streetlights, and had to avoid chandeliers and lighting fixtures. He cast his first ballot in an election in 1939 when he was 21. He had to crouch to get into the voting booth, and his head and shoulders projected over the top. He began making advertising appearances as a teen. He also became an ambassador for Peter's Shoe Company. Making even more public appearances, he ultimately visited more than 800 towns in 41 states. Not only did he become the face of the shoe company, he also began receiving specially made size 37 shoes free of charge. The free goods were certainly a welcome bonus since his shoes often cost about $100 per pair, which was quite expensive at the time. Robert signed with Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus in 1937, making brief appearances in a circus ring as an announcer introduced him. His appearances were dignified, and he wore a tie and dress pants. He appeared at Madison Square Garden and made stops in Brooklyn and Boston. Robert traveled in cars that had the front passenger seat removed so he could sit in the back seat and extend his legs. He was often seen playing the guitar and working on his photography until his ever-growing hands began to get in the way. Due to the lack of feeling in his legs, Robert Wadlow had trouble noticing when an ill-fitting brace was rubbing up against his ankle. And in 1940, that's exactly what happened. A blister had formed on his leg and was so irritated that it soon became infected and Robert ran a high fever. When his doctor realized what happened, they quickly rushed to his aid, resorting to a blood transfusion and an emergency surgery. Unfortunately, that failed to save his life. His jaw-dropping height had apparently left him with a weakened immune system, and he eventually succumbed to the infection. He ultimately gained a height of 8 feet 11 inches or 272 centimeters when he died. Even at the time of his death, his body was continuing to grow and showed no signs of slowing down. If he had lived, he would have probably grown to a height taller than 9 feet. Today, there are advanced surgeries and medicines that can help halt the growth if a person is growing abnormally. So if Robert was born today, he wouldn't have been as tall, and it's unlikely that anyone else in the future would beat his record. His casket was 10 feet 6 inches long and weighed almost 500 pounds and required 18 pallbearers to carry. He was entombed in a reinforced concrete wall to ensure no one would dig up his body for experimentation, a fear that he and his family always had. Soon after Robert died, his mother burned away many of his personal items and clothing to ensure that they wouldn't be resold for publicity reasons. Robert Wadlow not only holds the record for the world's tallest person, he also holds world records for the biggest feet, which were a whopping size 37, and the largest hands, which were 12.75 inches from the wrist to the tip of his middle finger. In 1985, a life-size bronze statue of Robert was erected on the campus of Southern Illinois University School of Dental Medicine in Alton. Thank you for watching. If you found the video interesting, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to Seanvolution for more such content.